Before we begin this touching story, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss stories that warm the heart and restore faith in humanity. The morning sun had barely risen over the busy city streets when Marcus Johnson arrived at his post outside the Grand Central Bank. He was a security guard, a man in his late 50s, with kind eyes and a warm smile that never seemed to fade despite the long hours he worked. Marcus had been doing this job for nearly 20 years, standing at the same glass doors, greeting customers, and making sure everyone stayed safe. To most people passing by, he was just another face in uniform, someone they barely noticed as they rushed through their busy lives. But Marcus noticed everything. He watched the world move around him with careful attention. He saw the stressed businessman who forgot his briefcase every Tuesday. He recognized the elderly woman who came in every Friday to deposit her pension check. He knew the young couple saving for their first home, their faces growing more hopeful with each visit. Marcus remembered them all, and he greeted each person with genuine warmth that made their day just a little bit brighter. On this particular morning, streets were especially crowded. People hurried past with coffee cups in their hands and phones pressed to their ears. The city was alive with its usual chaos of honking cars, chattering crowds, and the distant sound of construction. Marcus stood at his position, his posture straight and professional, but his eyes were soft and welcoming. He had learned long ago that this job was not just about security. It was about making people feel safe, seen, and valued. Around 9 o'clock, Marcus noticed something unusual. A small figure appeared at the edge of the crowd, moving slowly, while everyone else rushed past. It was a little girl, no more than 7 years old, with tangled dark hair and clothes that had seen better days. Her pink jacket was torn at the sleeve, and her shoes were too big for her tiny feet. But what caught Marcus's attention most was the look on her face. She looked lost, frightened, and utterly alone in the middle of the crowded sidewalk. The girl stood near a lamppost, her small hands clutching the metal pole as if it were the only solid thing in her spinning world. Her eyes darted back and forth, searching the faces of strangers who passed without seeing her. Tears had made clean tracks down her dirty cheeks. She was trying to be brave, but Marcus could see her bottom lip trembling. His heart immediately went out to this child who seemed so small and vulnerable in the big, uncaring city. Marcus looked around, expecting to see a worried parent searching for their daughter. But the crowds just kept flowing past like water around a stone. Nobody stopping, nobody noticing the frightened little girl. He waited a few moments, thinking surely someone would claim her. When no one came, he made a decision. He could not just stand there and watch a child in distress. His job was to protect people, and right now, this little girl needed protection more than anyone. He stepped away from his post and walked toward her with slow, careful movements. He did not want to frighten her more than she already was. As he got closer, he could see she was shaking, whether from cold or fear, he could not tell. When he was a few feet away, he stopped and knelt down to her level, making himself less intimidating. His large frame folded down until his eyes were at the same height as hers. "Hello there, sweetheart," Marcus said in the gentlest voice he could manage. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" The little girl looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. For a moment, she said nothing, just stared at this stranger in uniform. Then, slowly, she nodded her head. A fresh tear rolled down her cheek, and she wiped it away with the back of her small hand. "I can't find my mama," she whispered, her voice so quiet that Marcus had to lean in to hear her over the noise of the street. "I was holding her hand, and then there were so many people, and I let go for just a second, and now she's gone." Marcus felt his heart break a little. He had a granddaughter about this age, and he could not imagine how terrified she would be in this situation. He gave the girl his warmest, most reassuring smile. "Well, we are going to find your mama," he said with confidence. "My name is Marcus, and I work right here at this bank. It is my job to help people, and I am very good at my job." "What is your name?" "Lily," the girl said, her voice still small but a little stronger now. "That is a beautiful name," Marcus replied. "Now, Lily, I want you to know that you are safe now. I am not going to leave you, and we are going to find your mama together. Can you tell me what your mama looks like?" Lily described her mother while Marcus listened carefully, memorizing every detail. He could see that talking about her mother made Lily feel a little better. The fear in her eyes was slowly being replaced by something else, a small spark of hope. Marcus knew that hope was important. It was sometimes the only thing that kept people going in difficult times around them. The city continued its relentless pace, but in this small moment, time seemed to slow down. A security guard and a lost little girl. Two people who had been strangers just minutes ago, now connected by circumstance and compassion. Marcus gently took Lily's hand, her small fingers disappearing into his large, calloused palm. He could feel how cold she was, and he immediately took off his security jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. The jacket was far too big for her tiny frame, but it was warm, and that was what mattered. Lily pulled it tight around herself and looked up at Marcus with gratitude in her eyes. "First things first," Marcus said. "Let us get you somewhere safe and warm. My post is right over there by those glass doors. We can wait there and look for your mama. From there, we can see everyone who walks by. Does that sound good?" Lily nodded and let Marcus lead her to his station. Several people entering the bank gave them curious glances, but Marcus paid them no attention. Right now, this little girl was his priority. Everything else could wait. He positioned Lily on a small bench near his post, where she would be visible to anyone searching the area. Then he radioed his supervisor to explain the situation. "We have a lost child situation." Marcus spoke into his radio. "Little girl, about 7 years old, separated from her mother. I am staying with her at the main entrance. Please contact the police and let them know we may need assistance." His supervisor acknowledged the message and said help was on the way. But Marcus knew that police could take time to arrive, especially in a busy city during rush hour. He also knew that somewhere out there, a mother was probably going out of her mind with worry. He needed to do more than just wait. Marcus pulled out his cell phone and looked at Lily. "Sweetheart, do you know your mama's phone number?" he asked hopefully. Lily's face fell. "No," she said quietly. "Mama has it written down at home, but I do not remember it." Marcus nodded. It was worth a try. He thought for a moment about what else he could do. Then an idea came to him. He looked at the steady stream of people walking past the bank. Many of them were on their phones, connected to the world through social media and messaging apps. Maybe he could use that to help. "Lily, I want to try something," Marcus said. "I am going to ask some people to help us find your mama. Is that okay with you?" "Okay," Lily said, her voice still small but trusting. Marcus stood up and began approaching people on the sidewalk. "Excuse me," he would say, stopping a passerby. "This little girl is lost and looking for her mother. Could you share this information on your social media? Her name is Lily, and her mother is wearing a blue coat and has long brown hair. They got separated near this area." Most people were kind and agreed to help. They took photos of Marcus and Lily, careful to capture enough detail that Lily's mother might recognize them. And they posted the information on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Some people stopped to comfort Lily, offering kind words and encouragement. A few even stayed to help look for her mother. Meanwhile, Marcus kept his eyes scanning the crowds. He looked at every woman with long brown hair, every person who seemed to be searching for someone. He watched for the frantic movements of a mother who had lost her child. The desperate scanning of faces, the panic that would be written across her features. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Lily was getting more anxious, and Marcus could see the fear creeping back into her eyes. He knew he had to keep her calm and distracted. He sat down beside her on the bench and began talking to her in his gentle voice. "Tell me about your mama," he said. "What kinds of things do you do together?" Lily's face brightened a little. "We read books together every night before bed," she said. "Mama does all the funny voices for the characters. She makes me laugh." "Sounds wonderful," Marcus said with a genuine smile. "My daughter used to love when I read to her too." "What is your favorite book?" As Lily talked about her favorite stories, Marcus listened with his full attention. He asked questions and made comments, keeping her engaged and distracted from her fear. He told her about his own granddaughter and the games they played together. He shared funny stories that made Lily giggle despite her situation. All the while, his eyes never stopped scanning the crowd. People walking by began to notice them. Some stopped to ask if everything was okay. Marcus explained the situation each time, and more people began to help. A woman from a nearby coffee shop brought Lily a hot chocolate and a cookie. A businessman offered to walk up and down the block looking for Lily's mother. A teenager started a video about the situation that he posted online, hoping it would reach more people. What Marcus did not know was that his small act of kindness was creating ripples far beyond that sidewalk. The social media posts were being shared hundreds, then thousands of times. People across the city were seeing Lily's face and the story of the kind security guard who refused to leave her side. The images of Marcus kneeling down to Lily's level, his jacket wrapped around her small shoulders, touching hearts everywhere. News reporters monitoring social media for stories noticed the viral posts. Within 40 minutes of Marcus's first approaching Lily, a local news van was pulling up to the scene. A reporter jumped out with a cameraman following close behind. "Sir, we heard about what you were doing for this little girl," the reporter said to Marcus. "Can we help spread the word?" Marcus looked at the camera and thought about how this could reach even more people, including hopefully Lily's mother. "Yes," he said. "Please. We need to find her mother. The more people who know, the better chance we have." The news crew quickly set up, and the reporter began filming a segment right there on the sidewalk. Marcus held Lily's hand as the reporter explained the situation to the camera, describing how a security guard had found a lost little girl and was doing everything he could to help reunite her with her mother. The segment would air on the noon news, but the station also streamed it live on their website and social media channels. Within minutes, the live stream was being viewed by thousands of people. Comments flooded in from viewers across the city and beyond. People were moved by the image of Marcus, this gentle giant in a security uniform, treating a frightened child with such tender care. They shared the stream, sent messages of support. Many said they would help look for Lily's mother if they were in the area. Marcus was not thinking about any of that. He was not concerned with cameras or social media or going viral. His entire focus was on the little girl beside him. He noticed she was getting tired, the emotional stress of being lost beginning to wear on her. He sat down on the bench and gently pulled her close to him, letting her rest against his shoulder. "You are doing so well, Lily," he told her softly. "You are such a brave girl. Your mama is going to be so proud of you." "Do you really think we will find her?" Lily asked, her voice muffled against his shirt. "I know we will," Marcus said with absolute certainty. "There are so many people looking for her now. And I promise you, I am not going anywhere until we find her. You are stuck with me," made Lily smile a little. She looked up at Marcus with those big eyes. "You are nice," she said simply. "You remind me of my grandpa. He gives good hugs, too." Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. He thought about his own granddaughter and how he would want someone to treat her if she was ever lost and scared. "Well, your grandpa sounds like a smart man," he said. "And I bet he would be happy knowing that someone is taking care of you right now." Around them, a small crowd had gathered. People who had seen the social media posts or the news stream were coming to the bank to see if they could help. Some brought stuffed animals and snacks for Lily. Others just wanted to stand by and support Marcus in his efforts. It was a remarkable thing to witness, how one man's simple act of compassion had sparked this outpouring of community support. 2. Police officers arrived on the scene. Having been dispatched to help with the situation, they were professional and kind, taking down information about Lily and her mother. But they also recognized that Marcus had already done most of the work. He had kept Lily safe, calm, and visible. He had mobilized a whole community to help. The officers decided the best thing to do was support what Marcus had already started, rather than disrupt it. "You are doing great, sir," one of the officers told Marcus. "We will stay here with you and keep monitoring for any sign of the mother." The description and photos are being circulated to all units in the area. Marcus thanked them and continued his vigil with Lily. An hour had passed since he first found her. To Lily, it probably felt like forever. To Marcus, every minute that passed without finding her mother felt like a small failure, even though he knew he was doing everything he could. Then, suddenly, there was a commotion at the edge of the crowd. People were pointing and stepping aside. Marcus looked up and saw a woman pushing through the gathering, her face streaked with tears, her eyes wild with panic and hope. She was wearing a blue coat and had long brown hair, just as Lily had described. The moment Marcus saw her face, he knew this was Lily's mother.
Lily.
The woman screamed, her voice breaking with emotion. Lily! Lily's head jerked up at the sound of her mother's voice. For a split second, she seemed frozen, as if she could not believe what she was hearing. Then reality hit her, and she jumped off the bench. Mama. Lily cried out, her small legs running as fast as they could carry her. Mother and daughter collided in the middle of the sidewalk in an embrace so fierce, so full of relief and love, that everyone watching felt their eyes fill with tears. Lily's mother dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around her daughter, holding her so tight as if she would never let go again. She was sobbing uncontrollably, kissing the top of Lily's head over and over, whispering thank you to God and to anyone who could hear. Marcus stood back, giving them their moment. He felt his own eyes burning with tears, and he did not try to hide them. He watched as Lily's mother finally looked up, her eyes searching for the person who had kept her baby safe. When her gaze found Marcus, standing there in his uniform with tears streaming down his face, she knew immediately that this was the man who had saved her daughter, still holding Lily. She stood up and walked toward Marcus. She could not seem to find words at first. She just stared at him, this stranger who had shown her daughter such kindness. Then she threw one arm around him while still clutching Lily with the other, pulling him into their embrace. "Thank you," she sobbed against his shoulder. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I thought I had lost her forever. I have been searching everywhere and I was so scared and you kept her safe. How can I ever thank you enough?" Marcus gently patted her back, his large hand offering comfort. "You do not need to thank me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm just glad she is back with you. That is all the thanks I need." The crowd that had gathered broke into spontaneous applause. Strangers who had been watching this drama unfold were wiping tears from their own eyes. The news camera captured every moment of the reunion, and the reporter had to steady her own voice as she narrated the scene. It was one of those rare, beautiful moments that reminded everyone watching that there was still goodness in the world. Still people who cared about others without expecting anything in return. Lily's mother, whose name was Sarah, finally released Marcus and stepped back. Though she kept one hand on Lily's shoulder, as if she needed the physical reassurance that her daughter was really there, she looked at Marcus with eyes full of gratitude and wonder. "I do not even know how to begin to explain what happened," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "We were at the bus station, and it was so crowded. I was holding Lily's hand, but someone pushed past us, and I lost my grip for just a second. When I turned around, she was gone. I searched everywhere. I went to security. I called the police. I had been running through these streets for over an hour, screaming her name." Her voice broke again, and she had to pause to collect herself. Lily hugged her mother tighter, and Sarah stroked her daughter's hair with trembling fingers. "I saw something on my phone," Sarah continued. "Someone sent me a link to a live news stream. I almost did not click it because I was so focused on searching, but something made me look. And there she was, my baby, sitting with you safe and warm. I have never run so fast in my life." Marcus smiled gently. "The important thing is, you are together now," he said. "That is all that matters." One of the police officers stepped forward with a clipboard. "Ma'am, we just need to verify some information and make sure everything is in order," he said professionally, but kindly. Sarah nodded and answered all the questions, confirming Lily's full name, her own information, and the circumstances of how they were separated. The officer looked at Lily and smiled. "You were very brave, young lady, and you were lucky to find such a good friend." Lily looked up at Marcus and gave him a tired but genuine smile. "He let me wear his jacket," she said, "and he told me funny stories about his granddaughter." Sarah looked down and realized that Lily was indeed wearing a security jacket that was far too large for her. She looked back at Marcus with fresh tears in her eyes. This man had not just watched over her daughter from a distance. He had given her his own warmth, his own comfort, He had treated Lily with the same care he would give his own family. "I do not know how I can ever repay you," Sarah said to Marcus. Marcus shook his head firmly. "You cannot repay kindness," he said. "You just pass it on. Someday, when you see someone who needs help, you help them. That is how we make the world better, one small act at a time." The crowd that had been watching began to disperse, though many people stopped to shake Marcus's hand or pat him on the shoulder as they left. Several people were crying. One elderly man grabbed Marcus's hand with both of his and said, "You restore my faith in humanity, young man. God bless you." The news reporter asked if she could interview Marcus properly for the evening news. He was reluctant at first, uncomfortable with the attention, but Sarah encouraged him. "Please," she said, "let people know what you did. Let them see that there are still heroes in this world." So Marcus agreed to a brief interview. He stood in front of the camera, feeling awkward and out of place, but he answered the reporter's questions honestly. "What made you decide to help Lily?" the reporter asked. Marcus thought about it for a moment. "I did not really decide," he said. "I just saw a child who needed help, and I could not walk away from that. I do not think I am special for doing it. I think most people would do the same thing if they paid attention to what was happening around them." "But you went above and beyond," the reporter pressed. "You did not just call the police. You stayed with her, comforted her, mobilized a community to help find her mother. That is not something everyone would do." Marcus looked uncomfortable with the praise. "I just did what felt right," he said simply. "That little girl needed someone to tell her she was going to be okay. She needed someone to make her feel safe. I have a granddaughter about her age, and I would hope that if she was ever in that situation, someone would do the same for her." The reporter smiled at him warmly. "Well, on behalf of everyone watching, thank you for being the kind of person who stops to help. The world needs more people like you." When the interview was over, Marcus turned back to Sarah and Lily. Sarah was gathering her things, preparing to finally take her daughter home. Lily looked exhausted, the adrenaline that had been keeping her going now wearing off. She was leaning heavily against her mother, her eyes drooping. "Before you go," Marcus said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small business card with the bank's information and his name on it. On the back, he wrote his personal cell phone number. "If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. I want to make sure you two are doing all right." Sarah took the card with trembling hands. "You have already done so much," she said. "And I would do it again, in a heartbeat," Marcus replied. He knelt down one more time to Lily's level. "You be good for your mama, all right? And remember, you are a very brave girl. You did everything right today." Lily wrapped her small arms around Marcus's neck and hugged him tight. "Thank you, Mr. Marcus," she whispered in his ear. "You are my hero." Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears again as he hugged her back gently. "You are very welcome, sweetheart," he said. As Sarah and Lily walked away, Marcus watched them go until they disappeared into the crowd. Then he took a deep breath, picked up his jacket that Lily had returned to him, and went back to his post. He had been away from his station for over an hour, but his supervisor had told him not to worry about it. Some things were more important than protocol. Marcus tried to return to his normal routine, greeting people as they entered the bank, keeping watch over the entrance. But things were far from normal now. People who had seen the news or the social media posts recognized him. They came up to shake his hand, to thank him, to tell him how moved they were by what he had done. Marcus accepted their kind words with grace and humility, though he still felt uncomfortable being called a hero. "I just did what anyone should do," he kept saying. But the truth was, not everyone would have done what he did. Many people would have called security or the police and moved on with their day. Some might not have noticed Lily at all, too wrapped up in their own busy lives to see a small child in distress. Marcus had not only noticed, but he had given his time, his warmth, his comfort, and his complete attention to a stranger's child. That was not common. That was special. By the end of his shift that evening, Marcus was exhausted. It had been an emotional day, and he was looking forward to going home to his quiet apartment and resting. But as he was preparing to leave, his supervisor called him into the office. Marcus worried for a moment that perhaps he had done something wrong by leaving his post for so long. But when he entered the office, his supervisor was smiling. "Marcus, I just got off the phone with the bank's regional director," he said. "The story of what you did today has spread across the entire company. They want to recognize you for your actions. You represented not just yourself, but all of us, in the best possible way." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I appreciate that, sir, but it really was not necessary. I just did my job." "Your job is security," his supervisor said gently. "And yes, you did that. But you did so much more. You showed compassion, initiative, and genuine care for another human being. That is not in your job description, Marcus. That comes from who you are as a person, and it matters." Over the next few days, the story continued to spread. The news segment aired on the evening broadcast and was picked up by national news outlets. The video of Marcus kneeling down to comfort Lily, and later the reunion with her mother, went viral across the internet. People around the world shared the story, commenting on how it had moved them to tears. In a time when news was often filled with division and negativity, this simple story of human kindness resonated deeply with millions of people. Marcus started receiving letters and emails from people all over the country. Parents wrote to thank him for keeping a child safe. Grandparents wrote to say he reminded them of their own loved ones. Teachers wrote to say they were using his story to teach children about compassion. One letter came from a woman in another state who said watching the video had inspired her to volunteer at a local children's shelter. Another came from a man who said he had been feeling depressed and hopeless until he saw Marcus's story, which reminded him that there was still good in the world worth living for. Marcus read every letter, often with tears in his eyes. He had never imagined that such a simple act could touch so many lives. He kept the letters in a box in his apartment, and on difficult days, he would read through them and remember that his actions mattered. That kindness had power beyond what we could see in the moment. Sarah and Lily came to visit Marcus at his post a week after the incident. Sarah brought him a homemade cake and a card that Lily had made herself. The card was covered in crayon drawings of Marcus in his uniform, with Lily holding his hand. Inside, in a child's careful handwriting, it said, "Thank you for finding me. Love, Lily." "She wanted to make sure you knew how much you meant to her," Sarah said, handing Marcus the card. "She talks about you every day. She tells everyone about the nice security guard who kept her safe." Marcus looked at the card, his vision blurring with tears. "This means more to me than you know," he said softly. Sarah smiled at him. "I also wanted you to know that we have been talking to Lily about what happened. We are using it as a teaching moment about staying close to me in crowds and what to do if she ever gets lost again. But we are also teaching her about people like you, people who help others without expecting anything in return. You have given her a gift, Marcus. You have shown her that the world can be scary, but it is also full of good people." Lily tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Can I have a hug?" she asked. Marcus did not hesitate. He bent down and scooped her up in his arms, giving her the kind of hug that only someone who truly cares could give. Lily squeezed his neck tight and giggled. "I told my whole class about you," she said when he put her down. "They all think you are a superhero." Marcus laughed, a deep, genuine laugh that came from his heart. "Well, I do not have a cape or any special powers," he said, "but I will tell you a secret. Anyone can be a hero. You do not need powers or a fancy costume. You just need to care about other people and be willing to help when you see someone in need. You could be a hero too, Lily." Lily's eyes went wide with wonder at this idea. "Really?" she asked. "Really," Marcus confirmed. "In fact, you were brave and smart when you were lost. You stayed in one place instead of wandering off. You talked to me even though you were scared. Those were very heroic things to do." The visit was brief, as Marcus needed to return to his duties, but the connection between him and this family remained strong. As they left, Sarah turned back one more time. Sarah looked at Marcus with an expression of deep gratitude that went beyond words. "You changed our lives that day," she said quietly. "Not just because you found Lily, but because you reminded us that there are still good people in this world. In a time when everyone seems so disconnected and too busy to care, you stopped. You saw us. You helped. That matters more than you will ever know. Months passed, and life gradually returned to normal for Marcus. The media attention faded, the letters became less frequent, and he went back to being just another security guard standing at the bank entrance. But something had changed inside him. He had always been a kind person, but now he was more intentional about it. He paid closer attention to the people around him. He looked for opportunities to help, to offer a kind word, to make someone's day a little better. He noticed the college student who came in every week looking stressed, and he started leaving encouraging notes for her at the deposit counter. He helped an elderly man carry his heavy bag of coins every month without being asked. He remembered birthdays of regular customers and greeted them with special warmth on those days. These were small things, nothing that would make the news, but they mattered to the people he touched. The bank employees noticed the change too. Marcus had always been friendly, but now he seemed more present, more engaged. His warmth became infectious, spreading through the workplace. Other employees started being kinder to customers, more patient with difficult situations. The whole atmosphere of the bank shifted, becoming a more welcoming place. It was a reminder that one person's compassion could create ripples that changed an entire community. On the one-year anniversary of the day he found Lily, Marcus received an unexpected visitor at his post. It was a reporter from a national morning show. The producer had remembered the story and wanted to do a follow-up piece about what happened to everyone involved. Marcus was reluctant at first, but he agreed when he learned that Sarah and Lily would be part of the segment as well. The show flew them all to New York City for the taping. It was Marcus's first time on an airplane, and he felt completely out of his element in the fancy television studio. But when he saw Lily running toward him in the green room, her face lit up with joy. He knew it was worth it. Lily had grown taller in the past year. She was missing 2 front teeth now, and her hair was longer, tied up in ribbons. But her eyes held the same warmth, and when she hugged Marcus, he felt that same connection they had shared on that frightening day. The interview aired on a Tuesday morning and reached millions of viewers. The host talked about how Marcus's simple act of kindness had gone viral and inspired people around the world. They showed clips of the original news footage, the reunion between Lily and her mother, and new interviews with people whose lives had been touched by the story. A teacher from Ohio talked about how she used the story in her classroom to teach about empathy. A man from Texas explained how watching the video had inspired him to become a foster parent. A teenager from Florida said that Marcus had become her role model, showing her that real heroes were ordinary people who chose to do good things. The stories went on and on, each one a testament to the power of compassion. When it was Marcus's turn to speak, the host asked him how it felt to know he had inspired so many people. Marcus thought carefully before answering. "I think we all have the power to change someone's life," he said slowly. "We just have to choose to use that power. Every day, we pass by people who are struggling, who are lonely, who are scared, and we have a choice. We can keep walking, focused on our own problems and our own busy lives. Or we can stop. We can notice. We can help. It does not take special skills or training. It just takes a willingness to care about someone other than yourself." He paused and looked at Lily, who was sitting next to her mother in the studio audience. "That day, I saw a little girl who needed help. I could have called someone else to deal with it. I could have assumed it was not my problem, but I could not do that. Because when you really see someone, when you truly recognize their humanity, you cannot turn away. That little girl was not a stranger. She was somebody's daughter, somebody's whole world. And she needed me in that moment." The host wiped a tear from her eye, and the audience applauded. Then it was Sarah's turn to speak. She talked about the terror she had felt that day, the helplessness of searching for her child in a city of millions. She described the moment she saw the live stream on her phone and recognized her daughter sitting safely with Marcus. "I will never forget the image of my baby wrapped in his jacket, holding his hand," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. "He could have just kept her safe until police arrived. But he did more than that. He comforted her. He made her laugh when she was terrified. He treated her with the same love he would give his own grandchild. That is not just kindness. That is extraordinary compassion." Lily also spoke, surprising everyone with her composure and clarity. Mr. Marcus taught me that when scary things happen, there are good people who will help you, she said into the microphone. Now when I see someone who looks sad or scared, I try to help them too, just like he helped me. After the show, Marcus, Sarah, and Lily spent the afternoon together in New York City. They went to Central Park, ate hot dogs from a street vendor, and took silly photos together. Lily held Marcus's hand just like she had that first day, but now there was no fear, only joy and trust. They were no longer strangers brought together by crisis. They were family, bound by love and gratitude. As they said goodbye at the airport that evening, Sarah hugged Marcus one more time. "You will always be part of our family," she told him. Always. Marcus returned to his job at the bank, but now he carried something new in his heart. He had proof that his life mattered, that his actions had meaning beyond his daily routine. Every time he put on his uniform and went to work, he remembered Lily and all the people who had been touched by their story. He remembered that he had the power to make a difference, and that power was not in grand gestures or heroic acts. It was in the choice to care, to notice, to help. Years passed. Marcus eventually retired from his job at the bank, honored by the company and beloved by everyone who had worked with him. He stayed in touch with Sarah and Lily, watching as Lily grew into a compassionate, as a young woman who volunteered at homeless shelters and organized charity drives at her school. Sarah often told people that her daughter's kind heart was inspired by a security guard who showed them both what true goodness looked like. The video of Marcus and Lily still circulated online, periodically going viral again as new people discovered it and shared it. Comments came from every corner of the world in dozens of languages, all expressing the same sentiment. This story had touched something deep in the human heart. That universal longing to believe that people are fundamentally good, that kindness exists, that we can trust strangers to help us in our darkest moments. Marcus kept every letter he ever received about that day in boxes in his home. There were thousands of them. On quiet evenings, he would read through them, marveling at how one simple decision, to stop and help a frightened child, had created such enormous waves of goodness in the world. People wrote to tell him they had started volunteering because of him. Others said they had become better parents, better friends, better humans because his example had shown them what was possible. One letter stood out among all the others. It came from a young man who wrote that he had been planning to end his life on the day he saw Marcus's story. He had felt that the world was too cruel, too cold, too full of people who did not care about each other. But watching Marcus kneel down to comfort a lost little girl, seeing the tears in this stranger's eyes as he held someone else's child, had changed something in him. It reminded him that goodness existed. It gave him hope. He decided to live, to give the world another chance. He ended his letter by saying, "You saved 2 lives that day, Marcus. You just did not know about the second one." Marcus cried when he read that letter. He cried for the pain that young man must have been feeling, and he cried with gratitude that somehow his simple act of compassion had reached across the distance and touched a life he would never meet. It was a powerful reminder that we never fully know the impact of our kindness, that our actions ripple outward in ways we cannot see or measure. Now, as an old man looking back on his life, Marcus thought about the legacy he would leave behind. He had never been famous or wealthy. He had never accomplished anything the world would consider remarkable. He had been a security guard, a job most people barely noticed. But he had made a choice on one ordinary morning to see a child in need and to help her. That choice had changed everything. The story of Marcus and Lily became more than just a viral moment. It became a symbol of what humanity could be at its best. It was taught in schools as an example of compassion. It was shared in churches and community centers as inspiration. It was referenced in speeches about kindness and in articles about making the world better. It reminded people that heroism was not about superpowers or grand achievements. It was about being present, being caring, and being willing to help. Marcus Johnson passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 78. His funeral was attended by hundreds of people whose lives he had touched over the years. Sarah and Lily were there, of course, sitting in the front row. Lily, now a grown woman with children of her own, gave the eulogy. She spoke about the day a kind security guard had found her when she was lost and scared. and how that day had shaped the person she became. "Marcus taught me that love is not just a feeling," she said through her tears. "It is an action. It is a choice we make every single day to care about others, to help them, to see their humanity, and respond to it with compassion." He lived that truth every day of his life, and the world is infinitely better because he was in it. The story of Marcus and Lily lives on, still shared and reshared across the internet, still bringing tears to the eyes of everyone who watches it. It endures because it speaks to something eternal in the human spirit, that deep knowledge that we are all connected, that we all need each other, and that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change the entire world. Marcus was right when he told Lily that anyone could be a hero. All it takes is the willingness to stop, to notice, and to care. In a world that often feels cold and rushed, that simple truth remains as powerful today as it was on that morning when a security guard saw a lost little girl and decided that her well-being mattered more than anything else in that moment. That is the power of compassion. That is the legacy of true kindness. And that is why people around the world continue to cry when they hear this story, because it reminds them of who we all can be if we simply choose to care.